It's been over a decade since Volkswagen entered the minivan market here in the United States, and even that was just a rebadged Chrysler. This is the all-new 2025 Volkswagen id.buzz, and this is no Chrysler with a Volkswagen logo on it. This thing is the real deal. This is actually the first all-electric minivan to be sold in the United States, and as you can clearly see by the retro styling, this is the long-awaited, decades-long-awaited return of the Volkswagen bus. Is this the product that Volkswagen has been waiting for to put it back on the map and reach the status it hasn't reached since, well, the original bus and the Beetle? Let's find out on this first drive review. So we're going to start by looking at the styling, which is so unlike any other vehicle out on the road. We do have the modern kind of face with the modern headlights, kind of reminiscent of the ID.4. We do have the light up Volkswagen logo. This thing just looks so happy. It just looks like it's smiling all the time. We've been driving this around the roads around San Francisco, and so many people have come up and complimented us on it. So if you are driving one of these, at least for the first year or two that they're on sale, you are going to be noticed while driving this vehicle around. This thing, I dare say, draws about as much attention as the Tesla Cybertruck. We've got 20-inch wheels as standard here. This is actually the first edition, which is why we have these white accents here. Those are going to be black if you get one of the other trims, but they are supposed to look like the hubcaps on the original bus. I think they look so cool. We have a really long wheelbase here, but as you can see, the overhangs are really short. So this vehicle is actually shorter overall than a Volkswagen Atlas. I believe it's about the same as a Volkswagen Atlas Cross Sport. You'll also notice that it comes in some crazy colors. This yellow is absolutely gorgeous. They call it pomelo yellow. They also have some really other interesting colors. They have cabana blue, they have cherry red, they have mahi green, which is really great. And as you can see, they have a lot of two-tone colorways as well. So you can do the yellow and white, you can do the red with a silver, which we were driving earlier. So you'll see later in the video as we get on the interior, you'll see a little sneak peek of the red and the silver model. If you get the first edition, you'll notice you'll get a little first badge right here. I love these little streaks here on the side. We've got the very flat rear styling here. We do have a little badge letting us know that we have 4Motion all-wheel drive. You won't get that if you get the base rear-wheel drive model, but nothing else on the road really looks like that, minivan, EV, or otherwise. So you better be ready to get some attention with the family when you're driving one of these, because everybody's going to be looking at you in the id.buzz. All right, now that we've checked out the outside of the Volkswagen id.buzz, let's focus on the interior, where no matter which trim you get, you are getting a luxurious minivan. Volkswagen has pretty much made the id.buzz fully loaded, although there are some optional extras that you can get on this car. So this is one of 3 color pathways that you're going to be able to get on this car that are exclusive to North America. There's basically like a light beige, there's like a lighter brown, and then there's this kind of nice darker brown with the really nice white piping here. This is kind of the most mature and upstated out of the 3. You can see that we have our ID logo there, and we have a lot of perforated leather. That's because this is actually a heated and ventilated and massaging seat standard. All id.buzzes are going to have heated, ventilated, and massage seats. Like I said, pretty fully loaded, even the base models. We do have some armrests here on both chairs. You actually get another armrest on the passenger side on the other side of there. You can see we have our memory seats, again, standard, I believe, and you do have the massage function right there. You'll notice that this color pathway also includes, this looks like black, but it's actually blue. You can actually see that pretty well on the camera here. So blue accents here on the dash that pair with that dark brown. Now, as we get into the vehicle, all you have to do is put your foot on the brake to start it up. There is no start button. And what you're going to notice is that this is the updated version of Volkswagen's sort of ID electric car infotainment system. So we now have a 12.9-inch display. So this is bigger than what you previously got on the original ID4. They've made quite a lot of improvements to it. We do have our ambient lighting. You can adjust your sound control and things like that. We do have a really nice stereo system in here. Harman Kardon audio system with 14 speakers on the Pro S Plus model. The base speaker system is going to be 9 speakers, but we are in the Pro S Plus, and the stereo sounds pretty darn good, better than most minivans, if I'm being honest. We also have the new ID Assistant. So this is useful because I kind of hate all the touch capacitive buttons. We have touch sliders to adjust the climate control. We have volume down here as well. To adjust the fan speed, you have to hit Clima, and then it pulls up this kind of menu here. I believe when you do it in Drive, I was able to get it so that the climate control didn't take up the whole screen, which was kind of nice. I believe if you hit this one here, there you go. Now you have a shortcut where you can just adjust the fan speed. You don't have to pull up the whole climate menu. So little tiny improvements like that have made this system a little bit easier to use, but I still think that the lack of knobs and buttons make it a little bit more frustrating. I think it could be a lot easier if they had more physical controls. But like I said, you do have the ID Assistant, which is kind of cool. So you can activate it by saying hello Ida or hello ID, which is kind of interesting. Or you can actually program your own. This is so darn cool. So if you see, I set it to something really cool. So if I say, hello Jarvis, set the temperature to 70 degrees, please. Very quick. Recognized my voice just fine. You can make this whatever you want. You can make it like a pet's name, anything you want. That is really cool. I love the ability to kind of program your car to make it more personal to you. Jarvis is obviously a reference to Iron Man, which is kind of cool. We do have more touch capacitive buttons here in the steering wheel. Again, not a huge fan of these. We do have our little helper screen here. You've got your speed and some other range information and stuff there. I do like that the speed is there rather than being here on the center console. We've got lots of storage here. These cup holders actually fold out from this little door. We've got some nice storage right here in front of the passenger. We've got some cubbies in there, some deep storage down there. We've got this whole binnacle right here. You can kind of move where the cup holders are. You even have some storage here, so you can put some cables in there. The kids actually have their own little drawer where they can store stuff in the back. So tons of different storage everywhere in this car. They call this center console the Buzz Box, which is kind of a cute name for it. And the one feature we do not have is the panoramic roof, which actually becomes clear or opaque electrochromically. It's about a $1,500 option on this Pro S Plus model. You do have to get the Plus model, I believe, to get that sunroof, but unfortunately, we do not have it. I will try to get some B-roll of that for you so that you can see it in operation. Now here in the back, we do have some sliding doors. You can see that the window opening is kind of this little square cutout. That is kind of interesting. It's more of a retro reference to kind of the old Volkswagen buses, which is kind of cool. Now, here's an interesting thing. If you get the rear-wheel drive version, like we are driving here, you're going to be getting a bench seat. If you get the all-wheel drive version, you're going to get captain's chairs. So that's going to limit you to just 6 seats, whereas the rear-wheel drive version has 7. So something to consider if you are looking to buy that all-wheel drive version. No matter which trim you get, you are getting a ton of legroom here. I'm working with some incomplete numbers right now, but if you try and look at my written review over at carbuzz.com, I should have some numbers for you on legroom. But Volkswagen says it's massive, and they are not lying here. In the fully back position, I have so much room here. I've got a little pocket for my iPhone in addition to my map pocket down here. I already mentioned my little storage area down here, which is super nice. Here in the doors, I even have more storage. I've got a USB. I've got heated seats back here, which is quite nice. There's my USB port to charge up. Back here, I have my own air vents and climate controls here on both sides, which is quite nice. And then these seats do slide and recline forward and backwards. It is also super easy to get into that third row. All you do is kind of pull this one latch. The whole thing is going to tip and fold forward. I believe you should be able to leave a car seat in there as well. You can, at least on the Volkswagen Atlas, which is why I say that. As I mentioned, only 2 seats back here, but we do have some excellent leg room back here. Let me just go ahead and adjust that headrest so I'm comfortable. Look at how much leg room I have here in this 3rd row. I don't have the most shoulder room ever, but I do have a ton of headroom back here, tons of leg room. I've got my cup holders. I've got more of those USB-C ports. You just have tons of ports around this car. So even if you are an adult, you should be able to sit back here just fine. And we do have adjustments here, so you can actually slide these seats forward and backward a little bit if you need to get more storage behind the 3rd row. And last but not least, we're going to talk about cargo space, where the id.buzz is a little bit of a mixed bag in terms of storage space. So here behind the 3rd row, you are not going to have the advantage that some other minivans do of having that really low carved out area in the trunk where you can fit your strollers and all of that good stuff, because we do have a battery underneath there. Now, what you will notice is you do have some clever storage, kind of like what you do in the Toyota Sequoia is what this reminds me of. So we do have this kind of flat folding floor here, and the reason why is because when I pull the tabs to fold these 3rd row seats flat, as you can see, they do sit quite above the floor. So they don't like go into the floor. Again, that's where the battery is. So what they did was they put this little divider here. So now we have a fully flat floor leading all the way into those 2nd row seats. Now, what you can do is you can lift this up, and this actually has like a strut, which is kind of cool. And then underneath it, you just have these little divider boxes, which are fully optional. You obviously don't have to use these, so that you can take them out and have just like your open storage in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these on the floor so I can show you what this apparatus looks like. So these are actually screwed into the floor. You basically just have to untwist this, and you can actually remove this 3rd row altogether. It's actually really easy. All you do is just pull this tab, and it's going to just go ahead and slide the whole seat out pretty easily. And then you have what Volkswagen is quoting as 146 cubic feet of space. That is more than anything else passenger car wise in this entire segment. It's more than the Chrysler Pacifica, more than the Sienna, more than a Chevy Suburban in terms of cargo space. But you do have to do quite a little bit of manual labor, because we did lift these seats out earlier, and boy, oh boy, are they heavy. I like that they have that nice little handle by which you can grab them, but oh boy, you better, that's going to be your workout for the day, because they are quite heavy. Now, Volkswagen says you can actually take out the 2nd row as well, but those are not designed to just like snap in and out the way that these 3rd row seats are. So you do have to do a lot more manual labor if you wanted to convert this into a full cargo van. But even with those 2nd row seats in place, 146 cubic feet of space is nothing to scoff at. It is class leading, and in fact, I believe it's actually industry leading. All right, so now it's time to get the id.buzz out on the road, and I've actually driven this vehicle, albeit a very different version of it, about a year ago. I drove the short version of the id.buzz with the single rear motor, which is what they sell in Europe, but that is very different than how we have the id.buzz here in America. We only get it as a long wheelbase, with the 3 rows, and the one we get here is a lot more powerful than what Europe originally got. Our rear motor version makes 282 horsepower and a whopping 413 pound-feet of torque. That is a lot for a rear motor car, especially on that torque number. I believe that the European one only had about 201 horsepower. So the US is certainly getting a lot more power to move what is now a larger vehicle. And if you get the 4Motion all-wheel drive, that is going to step the horsepower up to 335 HP. That'll also get you from 0 to 60 in around 6 seconds flat. That pretty much makes this the quickest minivan you can buy. I don't believe that there are any other minivans currently on sale today, because they all have gasoline engines or hybrids. I don't think any of them are even going to get close to a 6-second flat run to 60 miles per hour. And the other thing that they're not going to do is they're really not going to be as fun as this to drive. Volkswagen was very confident in the id.buzz's handling abilities that they put us on this really windy mountain road outside of San Francisco. And there was a pretty big smile on my face driving this rear wheel drive version. Woo-hoo-hoo. The traction control light actually just came on there. I feel like I have plenty of power. I don't think that I need the dual motor version, although stay tuned for my full written review. I will hopefully get behind the wheel of a 4Motion to determine which one of those I would rather get, but I do feel like I have plenty of passing power here with the rear wheel drive version. There's not a lot of weight over the front end. I really can kind of chuck it into corners here. I do not feel like the vehicle is kind of rolling around the way that I normally would be in a minivan. There is no way that I would feel confident in a Sienna or a Pacifica or a Carnival or even a Honda Odyssey to be taking some of these corners the way that I'm doing in the id.buzz, thanks to its very low center of gravity with the battery and its very instant torque getting out of the corners. The steering is not too heavy. It does have a sport mode. It doesn't really make the steering that much heavier to put it in sport mode, but maybe it's a little bit more exciting, like minimally, not too much. But I will go ahead and declare that this is easily the most fun to drive minivan on sale today, and I actually don't think it's particularly close. The id.buzz also rides really well. I mean, a lot of that has to do with that really long wheelbase, so it does ride really well. I haven't driven it a ton on the highway. We were going over the Golden Gate Bridge in it, and it sounded a little bit louder than I was hoping for in the cabin, but that is a very windy bridge, so we're on kind of normal, slower highways exiting the city, and it didn't sound as loud, so I do need to spend a little bit more time with it to get a definitive opinion on that, because on like normal roads, it is super quiet in here, quieter than I think you would be in a gas or a hybrid minivan. And your family is really going to love the ride as well. It is a very cushy, very luxurious ride that I think they are going to enjoy. And here's the important part. You want to know how far you're going to go in this car. We've got a 91 kilowatt hour battery, which is pretty big, but they didn't really go too large with the battery. They didn't go 120 or 150 kilowatts hours to try and get a huge range out of this, which is why the driving range is just ever so slightly disappointing when you compare it to some of its rivals. You're going to get 234 miles in the rear wheel drive version, and you only lose 3 miles if you get the 4Motion. So 231 miles EPA rated range. You know, I really would have liked to have seen a number a little bit closer to that magic 300 mile mark. This is really not going to be the best road trip vehicle if you and your family are trying to go upstate or across state to see the in-laws with the family. You might have a tough time doing that if you don't have a place to charge once you get there. But the good thing is, once you do need to charge it, you are going to get 200 kilowatt peak speeds. This is the fastest charging speed that Volkswagen has offered on an electric vehicle. We know that Audi and Porsche within the Volkswagen group have really fast charge speeds, but I'm liking that some of that technology has trickled down to the Volkswagen level. We do still have an a CCS connector. We do not have NACS yet to charge at Tesla stations. An adapter should be coming next year, and then we will see when Volkswagen decides to fully switch to those Tesla ports. On the current structure, you should get from 5 to 80% battery in under 30 minutes, which is really all you can ask for in this day and age. All right, so that wraps up our time with the 2025 Volkswagen id.buzz. And now here's time for the bad news. This is an expensive vehicle. We should know this already. Just looking at the EV market right now, you've got a big battery in a big vehicle, and they packed this thing with a ton of standard equipment. We're talking massage seats, all the safety tech. So we weren't going to be looking at a $40,000 price tag here. In fact, the base Pro S trim starts just under $60,000, and you do not get the tax credit unless you're gonna go ahead and lease one of these because it is built in Germany. Now it only goes up from there. You've got the Pro S trim, which is $63,495. You've got to step up to the Pro S Plus if you want the 4Motion all-wheel drive. That's gonna add a little over $4,000 to the price. So you're looking at $67,995 for that all-wheel drive Pro S Plus. And if you want the first edition, that's gonna be $65,490 or $69,995 with 4Motion all-wheel drive. So nearly 70 grand fully loaded for one of these. Now that is not the most expensive that you can get for a large 3-row EV. The only other options that you're really looking at are like a Tesla Model X. You can get the Kia EV9, which can get up into the 80s. And then you've got the Rivian R1S, which also gets well above 6-figure territory. So this might be a lot more expensive than the gas and the hybrid powered minivans that you might be looking at, but it is relatively on par with a lot of the other EVs in the 3-row segment. And here's the thing, none of those other EVs are going to get you as much attention, as many smiles as you're gonna get in the id.buzz. And honestly, none of them are as big, as spacious, or as practical either. This is just such a cool thing. I hate that not everybody is going to get to experience this, because if this was like 40 grand, I don't think Volkswagen would be able to build enough of these to keep Americans happy. At 60 grand, it kind of limits who's going to be able to get one. But if you do have the money, I really think this is a product that you are going to enjoy, because there's just nothing else like it. I hope you've enjoyed this first drive review of the id.buzz. To read my full review, check out carbuzz.com. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to be alerted of our latest videos. I'll see you next time.